Right, awesome. So can you just introduce yourself and what it is you do here at Starling Cycles?
I am Joe McKeown of Starling Cycles. I started this company, I'm the director of it. And what do? I mostly answer emails and deal with loads of rubbish like that. I used to build bikes. I used to do all the exciting bike building, but not really anymore.
Right, fair enough.
People that do that.
But now we've got a team.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, what was sort of the start of? I know what I want to do. I want to make bikes.
Okay. I was an aerospace engineer before, so I was designing aircraft. I was actually analysing aircraft parts for strength. I was a stress engineer. But I've always ridden bikes, and as an engineer, you always kind of make the things you're involved in. So I used to skateboard. I made skateboards. I used to play golf. I made golf clubs.
Oh wow!
And then got into biking, and I sort of always wanted to make a bike. So I went on a frame building course with a bloke called Dave Yates, who sort of made a frame. Is it even here anymore? It's at home actually. So I just made a frame on a weeks-long course, went and sort of made this bike. But it wasn't quite right. He convinced me the geometry he wanted, but it wasn't quite right. So I got it home and decided I wanted to change it. So I basically, in my shed, just got all the stuff I needed to change it. And then once I'd modified that first frame, I then thought, oh, well, I might as well make another one. So I actually made in my shed as a hobby, I made a bike for my daughter. So I made a little kid's bike.
Oh, right. Oh, that's cute.
And then it just sort of progressed, and I made more. And I'll show you. Yeah, you see all the frames up on the top there. That's like the progression of frames that I made. So it's like the history.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
And then this was all as a hobby, just sort of in the evenings. And then I started making them, and they started getting quite good. Started making mountain bikes, and I thought they were good. So I sort of wrote to a magazine called Dirt Magazine. And a chap called Steve Jones, who's sort of quite a well-respected bike tester, rode one of the bikes and said it's really good. Wow. Really liked it.
That's amazing.
But it gave me a few ideas about how to change it, and then I made another one that he rode, and he loved it, and he put up on his social post, I've just ridden a bike ridden in a shed, and it's faster than a whole load of $5-6 grand carbon bikes that I'm riding at the moment.
Wow, that is amazing. That is fantastic.
So because of that, people wanted to buy them.
Yeah, okay. So was that sort of where it went from going, oh, I'm just doing it as a hobby, just doing it for fun, to, oh, I can make a business?
Yeah, well, it wasn't, at that point, it wasn't a business. It was more, if I make them, it fuels my hobby. It's expensive to make bikes.
Yeah.
Like, the tubes are £200-300. All the machines you need, all the kit you need. So even doing it as a hobby is really expensive. So if you can sell a few to fuel your hobby, that's kind of good. So that's what I did. But then I started telling more and more, and started getting different press people involved or interested in it, and so people kind of liked the story, and the bikes were good. So just sales got more and more.
Yeah, and then it went to a point where this is no longer a hobby. This is more a business now.
There was kind of a specific day at work where I was finished. I was contracting, and I was signing off calculation files, and I only really needed to be there to sign off the calculation files. And when I wasn't, I was at home building bikes, and my boss was quite happy with it. And then one day, that work was ending, and I went to my boss. Right, I need a new project. I need to get my teeth into something else. And he said, "You don't want to do this, do you? you want to build bikes." So I kind of went home that day, and I think I'd sold like 20 or 30 frames at that point. So I worked out all the costs. I just did an accountancy exercise and worked out I could earn enough money. I think I'd worked out I needed to sell 60 frames a year, 50 frames a year, and that would be enough.
Oh, amazing!
I worked out I could build that many, and so that was it. And then 3 months later, I finished my job, and I just started doing it full time in my shed. Which
we have here.
Yeah, it's kind of like this. Yeah.
Oh, that is amazing. So, what was the first bike that you made, and how did you go about making that design and being like, right, this is the core of Starling Cycles? And then
it sort of progressed. So, like I say, I'll show you that it slowly changed. So I sort of made. I made a single-speed full suspension bike to begin with, which was really kind of niche bike, but it's what I kind of like riding. But then I started making more general kind of enduro mountain bikes. They are, and I gave it a name, the Swoop, and just progressed that design to the point where, and you just design the bike. I suppose it's pretty obvious to me how to design a bike. It seemed quite obvious, and then you just refine the design, and it's refined for manufacturing and performance, and tried lots of different things, really low bottom brackets, really raked out angles. You tried different behaviours, and then sort of worked out what worked best.
Right, okay, that's really interesting. When you've sort of been making bikes, and you've got quite a lot of different like models for different like specificities, were there any that you were making as you were making, you were like, wow, I didn't expect to come across this problem, or wow, this is more than I expected? Were there any moments like that?
Yeah, always, continually, yeah. Everything, you change one little thing and there's a whole load of knock-on effects you haven't thought of. So yeah, that's engineering really. That's you know, that's what we do.
You find a problem, you solve the problem, makes another problem, solve that problem. It's always just a big
so
puzzle.
That's what we're doing. We're pretty good now building all the frames that are production bikes. We've got it totally ironed out. It's all brilliant. But in the early days, you're coming across lots of little problems.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
But then we never stopped doing new prototypes. So there's loads of different prototype bikes we're working on, and that's trying to solve all the problems. And that's the exciting bit.
That is really interesting. Do you have any bikes that you've made, whether it's actual ones that you're selling or prototypes that you're like particularly proud of, or ones that you're like, wow, I can't believe I made that one?
They're all good. I like my BDLI, which is the single speed bike, which is really good. It's sort of it's the bike I like riding the most, but it's the most niche bike. I've probably sold 20 of them in total. So don't sell many of them, but it's beautiful. It's really simple. There's nothing complicated about it. It's lovely.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I saw one of the prototypes you have at the moment is like a carbon fibre frame. Can you tell me a bit more, like, what was the process behind choosing to do that, and what are the differences you found between steel and carbon fibre?
I started making steel bikes because my background, I was aerospace, but I spent a lot of time in carbon fibre R&D. I was doing development of carbon fibre aircraft components and analysis of aircraft components, but all in carbon fibre. So I sort of knew a lot about carbon fibre. But then I went on to make steel bikes, and partly because steel's easier to do in your sheds, but partly I'd seen aerospace carbon fibre, which is the best you can do, compared to bicycle carbon fibre, which is crap. It does what it's supposed to do. You can ride around on a bike, but the quality of it is nowhere near what aerospace is. So I couldn't go into a shed and start making really, really crap carbon fibre bikes, having seen the best aerospace carbon fibre. So that's what got me into steel, and then steel rides really nicely. So it just I'd always ridden steel bikes. It just feels like the best material for a bike. But because I've always had a background in carbon, I've always been interested in doing carbon bikes, but trying to do really good carbon bikes. So a year ago, 18 months ago, a place I used to work, National Composite Centre, contacted me saying they're doing a project to develop a new manufacturing process. Do I want to be involved in it? So we actually got some government funding to make that bike up there. And it's more, the bike, we're more trying to develop a manufacturing process rather than an actual bike. But the manufacturing process lends itself to a bike. So
that's interesting. So do you think that sort of trend in carbon fibre that we have at the moment in bikes is more a manufacturing thing than it is a consumer thing?
I think carbon fibre is lighter and stronger than steel. Not lighter and stronger, it's lighter. It's specific strength, so its strength per weight is lower on carbon. So you can build a lighter bike out of carbon fibre, but it's not as tough. So I was actually chatting to somebody the other day who's works in a company doing carbon fibre bike repairs, and he's got a full-time job repairing carbon bikes. And I personally don't think when you repair carbon, you never get it as good as it was originally. So it's a bit of a bodge, but people believe weight is important. They think you've got to have the lightest bike to zoom around on, even though most people are just pooling around. If you're winning or you're close to winning races, then weight starts mattering. But for most people, it doesn't matter. But everyone believes they're better than they actually are. So there's this belief you need this lightweight bike. So therefore, people sell carbon fibre bikes, and all the manufacturers have pushed carbon fibre bikes. But personally, I think most carbon fibre bikes are made in China or other places. The top end steel bikes and aluminium bikes are actually all made in Taiwan. The labour force in China or in Taiwan is much more skilled, and they've been making bikes for years. the stuff in China is much lower skilled. So
right.
you get like carbon fibre is like the McDonald's of manufacturing.
Oh, right.
You spend a whole load of money developing a manufacturing process, but then you can get unskilled people, relatively unskilled people, to make the bikes.
Oh,
Whereas to
okay.
weld up an aluminium bike or a steel bike, you need an experienced welder. And that's
Okay.
so I think the big brands are making carbon fibre bikes for very low cost. They've got, they sell them for a lot of money because they can sell them for a lot of money. But it's also just really high scrap rates on carbon frames, so that they have to cover their costs of that. So I think we're paying more for carbon bikes than we should.
Right.
But,
I'll give him a minute to
Yeah.
do his sawing.
there you go.
There you go. So
You done, Jeff? You done sawing?
I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's all right. Yeah.
So I know you've branched out to doing carbon fibre, but you've also said you've got a prototype for an e-bike.
Yeah.
as
So
well.
we've been working with a motor company called Free Flow. As
Okay.
a small company, trying to work with Shimano or Bosch, the numbers they want, they want 100 units
Yeah.
bought at £1,000 each or 500, however much they cost. I haven't got that amount of money to buy all those. So I've been working with a small company called Free Flow. That's a UK company. They developed a motor. It's really good. We've been building sort of prototype bikes, so we're sort of on the second generation of prototype
wow.
e-bike. The carbon bike is actually an e-bike as well.
Oh really?
So
wow.
we've done 2 steel ones and then the carbon one. But they're all still a little bit away from production. But everyone's, you've got to do an e-bike.
Yeah,
and
it is very in.
yeah, it's not in. It's just that's what people buy.
Yeah.
So we put a picture of one of the e-bikes on social media, and most people say, "Oh, that's great." But then you get the odd people going, "Oh, I'm not pure rubbish." Totally gone down in my estimation because you're doing an e-bike. And it's like, the only companies not doing e-bikes are small companies because they haven't got the capacity.
Yeah.
Every big brand has done an e-bike because all the sales are e-bikes.
Yeah.
If I go to Forest of Dean, where I go riding, it's probably 70-80% people on e-bikes. So if I just ignore it, my company collapses.
Yeah, exactly.
And I can understand why people don't like e-bikes, but as a company, you have to do it. So
Yeah.
it's people saying, "Oh, that's rubbish." They can have that opinion, but they've got to understand.
It's what people want.
Well, and we're here to make money.
Yeah,
I'm not here just for fun. I've got to earn money to pay my mortgage and feed my kids. And,
Yeah,
it's like-
exactly.
So if I just are very stubborn and only make normal bikes and then they stop selling, I've had
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
So you do have to have an eye. It's a bit brutal. And
Yeah, but this is industry.
Yeah,
This is it.
That's how it works. So,
Yeah. So is every sort of prototype do you make, does every one of those go out, or does they go out eventually after you've gotten to a certain type
so
of prototype?
we build a few in house and we iron out all the problems, and then like the gearbox bike was probably 2 years from building the first
Wow.
prototype to us starting to sell them. And it's partly just refining the design, getting it right for manufacture, just making sure there's no little things that come back at you. And the gearbox is relatively new, so we wanted to test that and just make sure that was good. So
Okay.
yeah, it's not. In the early days, my bikes I made were, I'd make changes and then sell it to customers.
Yeah.
But I used to charge I sold them for like £1,000
Yeah.
for a frame, and people knew it was a sort of prototype. Almost.
Yeah.
People knew that I was a tiny brand just building it. But now everything's kind of legitimate.
That's really interesting actually. So the carbon fibre and the e-bike are going to be released in the future once they've had it ironed out.
The
in a way.
e-bike is probably closer. The carbon fibre bike is about £1 million and
Right.
a couple of years away from
Right.
and I haven't got that money. I need to partner up with somebody who has and develop it. So that's although I've got the background in it, I haven't got the resources to do it. So we got funded to do that. So it's government funding to do that. But doing the next step, I need more funding. So it's
Fair enough.
I'd love to do it.
Yeah.
But God knows.
one day maybe a dream.
Yeah.
So what is sort of like in the next 2 years or something? What is Starling Cycles going to look like? What's happening?
Don't know. Haven't a clue. We these lot take the piss out of me because I change my mind continuously. I don't know. I don't. Yeah, you can say right, we'll take a load of investment and we'll grow and we'll become a big company, but then my job personally becomes just dealing with boring things, insurance and
Yeah.
shipping and all that kind of stuff. Whereas at the moment, I do quite a lot of interesting engineering. You know, it's a small team. It's really lovely. It's sort of it's whether I'm driven by money or not. You know, and I'm not necessarily. So I don't think money makes you happy. You know, I've got a really good quality of life. But then being a little bit bigger makes you more stable. So as we're so small, it's, you know, we get some stuff made in Taiwan. We get our swing arms made in Taiwan. Okay. If I get a bill in from Taiwan and it's £40,000-50,000, that's a lot of money for me to find. So as you get bigger, you get a bit more stable and everything. All the bumps iron out a little bit. So it's sort of. I'd like it to be stable but still exciting. Yeah. I don't need to make loads of
You want to go bigger, but you don't go too big.
Yeah. So it's really tricky. It's
it is difficult. That is really interesting.
And you've got to keep selling bikes. So
exactly.
You can only get bigger if you keep selling bikes. And the only way you get bigger is by selling more bikes. It's by doing more advertising. You just have to do more advertising.
That is it. Business is a vicious cycle.
It is, and it's quite kind of boring that it's so linear like that. You just put more money into advertising and then you sell more. I keep thinking of Coca-Cola. That everyone knows what Coca-Cola is. Yeah. And it's been going for years. They've not changed, and they just spend shitloads of money on advertising. Yeah. And so that's it. So they'll know if we put a big boost on advertising, we'll sell more of it. And it's that linear. It's that kind of boring, really.
That is it. It's really interesting. That's a really interesting insight. It's so crazy, I guess, when things go from just a hobby to business, because then there's so many other things you have to consider. But you, at the end of the day, you're still doing something you're passionate about. Like you said, you've always had that passion for bikes, so now it's, I guess, something that you used to do. You know, like aerodynamics, making aeroplanes. In a sense, to making bikes, it's taking a knowledge to a passion, and that's I think everyone's dream.
It is. I know a lot of people think I've got a dream job. I kind of have.